Chris Richards, who has been with Bayern Munich but been on loan with Hoffenheim a couple times. Looks like he's got a verbal agreement in place to join Patrick Vieira at Crystal Palace. Charlie, I'm coming to you first. This is some pretty big news to have another American in the Premier League.
I absolutely love it. Patrick Vieira is a player's coach because he helps you develop. There's the communication. Whenever you see Patrick Vieira managing a club, I've only read positive reviews from players, from the staff, from supporters, and he's a tactician. He's going to help Chris Richards in learning how to play out of the back and the proper technique and placement. And those are the things that we need our players to develop. It's not so much the timing of aerial duels and out muscling players. No, it's about being confident on the ball. That's what Greg Berhalter wants his center backs to be able to do. Play out of the back, be confident on the ball. Sometimes take a few touches to evade pressure and move up the field, get the lines higher. I love this move, and I love that it's not Leeds United, because that narrative is tired. Oh, let's just bring all the Americans, and then it's if they do great, okay. But if they do poorly, then it's like, oh, all Americans, they can't get it done. So I love the diversity of this move, and I think it's a great place for him to play.
Okay, and Heath, how are you feeling about it? This is pretty significant. The hard part is that Crystal Palace already have a couple guys in front of them, so it could be.
And they're young. They got Mark Gay, who's 22. He's an England international. They got Joachim Andersen, also not super young, but a Danish international. But we can't expect any of our players and say, hey, look at all the potential he has. Look how good he is, and then assume every time there's competition, they're going to lose out on that competition, right? Like, we've got to eventually believe in the quality of a Chris Richards, who's coming out of Bayern Munich, who was playing at Hoffenheim when he was fit and healthy, to assume that he could go into a Premier League team and compete for a spot. Now, maybe he doesn't win it in day one. Maybe he doesn't win it on day 30. But you have to like your chances of being in that type of environment. Hopefully there's a coach and Patrick Vieira that believes in him and wants to develop him as a player. But if I could start over now and pick a team in the Premier League, it would be Crystal Palace. Like, if I wasn't an Arsenal fan and I wanted to talk about a team that played a way that I like, the way that enjoy the way that they play, they're entertaining to watch, it's sort of neutral, they're London, like I would pick Crystal Palace because of everything about them I really like. So for Chris Richards, I'm a big fan of this move, but he's got to prove something.
Yeah, he's got to prove us something. I guess my counter to that would be, well, wouldn't it be better then, especially leading up to a World Cup, for Chris Richards to go to a place where he knew he was going to play more, given the fact that he does have two young center backs in front of him that have played a tremendous amount of games for Crystal Palace. And for everybody, just as a reminder, they finished 12th last season and had a +4 goal difference, which isn't easy, I think.
Yeah, but they had a million draws. They were close to Europe, basically. They had a million draws, right?
I would also say, you're not signing with Crystal Palace just to sit the bench, especially going into a World Cup year. So I think these next 6 months, you have a conversation with Patrick Vieira. And you also know what he thinks of you, where he's going to place you. If Patrick Vieira is going to have a conversation with Chris Richards and say, hey, you know what, you're going to be a backup here, and you're not going to play unless someone gets injured or suspended and you take your opportunity, then Chris Richards is probably going to say, you know what, I'm not just going to go to Crystal Palace to say I'm a part of a Premier League team and not play and miss out on a World Cup. I got to go to a place where I'm going to compete. So I would assume that Patrick Vieira says, you know what, you're coming here to compete for a starting spot. Now, it's on you if you take that opportunity, but we're bringing you in because we probably haven't liked what we've seen in preseason so far. And so this is an opportunity for you to give us some depth while competing for the starting position. And then it's on the player. You have to have trust and faith in your quality. You also probably have to be realistic. Is this a good spot? You analyze the situation and you say, hey, I like my chances.
Like any other time, before leading up to a World Cup, I would be all over this move for all the reasons we discussed. I just find it feels like a bit of a risk, especially because he played 36 of 38 Premier League games. Joachim Andersen played 32, started 32 of the 38 games, came on as a sub in the other two. Like, those guys are the ones they leaned on to get the job done. Maybe they aren't playing well. Maybe obviously there is going to be some cover for injuries. I just find that it's a bit of a risk. I like it personally. I mean, it's worth doing. It's bold. But I wonder if it could end up working against him, especially because with Miles Robinson out with the Achilles tear, that center back spot next to Walker Zimmerman still feels pretty wide open. And for some that maybe don't think that Walker's been that sharp recently, maybe both of the spots are open. I don't know how everybody feels about that, but
yeah, I mean,
ahead.
I'm with you, Jimmy. I would say, would you prefer to see a Chris Richards take a loan, let's say to a top team in Denmark, Belgium, Holland, versus, because he obviously wanted to get out of Germany. I think that's evident, because if you're at Bayern and you already had a loan last year,
once Bayern's about to sign Matthias de Ligt,
yeah,
like that pretty much
that's done.
That's pretty much your future. Is he's basically your age, and they just signed him for 80 million or whatever from Juve. Yeah, you're not going to get any time with Bayern anytime soon. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Denmark, Hoffenheim's good. I mean, they're competitive in the Bundesliga. I mean, maybe not as good as they used to be, or they're trying to work their way back. I liked where he was, but if it wasn't fitting his style, or maybe it wasn't demonstrating what he's capable of, maybe he wanted to get out of a back three and play in a back four, and maybe show Greg Berhalter that he can play out of the back, to your point about what Patrick Vieira likes. I don't know. It's really interesting. We have to get him on the show.
It's an American.
We are playing England
club, by the World Cup. Crystal Palace is owned by an American, and Blitzer, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but it's an American-owned club. So there is a value there of having an American. And yeah, so there are some elements, Jimmy. I also agree that it is a high risk. It's probably too big of a club to turn down if you're Chris Richards at the moment, and they're going to come in for you. Obviously, the negotiation of the fee could say something about the move itself, whether it's a high value transfer. I don't think it will be, but you're right in the fact that they've had two very reliable young center backs that he's going to have to compete for, and it's going to make him some kind of player, right? Either it's going to probably level him, or he's going to succeed and went out in competition, which I like. Not ideal timing. If this was after the World Cup, I'd be like, go ahead, spend the next 3 years trying to figure this out right. Before the next World Cup. But yeah, there's just, what it is when you're in a situation, and Charlie, you did it in the summertime. There's no perfect time to make a move. You just know that your future's on the line. You're probably, if you're Chris Richards, you're probably hearing about 10 plus clubs that want you. 9 of them aren't going to work out. The deal's not going to happen. They're going to sign another player. The amount of times that, when we played England at Wembley, there was Gladbach was coming in to do a deal. A guy turned around, flew back, took a player for free out of the French league on a 4-year deal. Deal was done for me. I was 100% convinced that I was going there, already having the conversation. That's the way it really works. It's not always like, I've got 10 options, let me pick the best one, or I've got multiple. For Gareth Bale, okay, he's going to have those options. But I didn't have those. Chris Richards doesn't have those with his young career so far, that sometimes you've got to just sort of say, this is the best case scenario. It's the deal that's actually on the table. It's the only one that we think is going to happen. I've got to hedge my bets on this. It's better than getting buried at Bayern Munich, maybe, as his alternative.
No, 100%. Here's the dream, everybody, at least for the In Soccer We Trust family. August 5th, Arsenal plays Crystal Palace, opening game of the Premier League. Matt Turner in goal for the Gunners. And we have Chris Richards starting for Crystal Palace. Let's make it so. I'm trying to put that out into the universe so it does happen. That would be amazing to have two Americans playing against each other in the start of the Premier League season.